Looks like it, I don't think we'll hear us, so that's probably a good thing. So it's in red and white, right? You know.
I've been talking to myself again.
Good morning, welcome to NUFC Manners. Apologies for the last minute schedule change. Mick Lowes is unavailable today. We hope Mick's okay. We've got some special guests in, and I invited Stu Penman because he usually does the retro show. Never gets a chance to talk about modern day football. We've got Chris here who's jumped on, who you'll recognise from the worldwide squad. But a massive hello to Alwaleed, who is with Holly on his way to Brighton. How are you, Alwaleed? Can you hear us?
Yalla. Alwaleed, yalla.
Holly, can you hear us? No? Yes? It might be slightly delayed. Our data isn't great. Can you hear us? No, not good at all. Can you hear us, Holly? She's putting a coffee cup up. They've gone. They've disappeared. Chris, we'll come back to them at some point. Okay. So we'll start with you, mate. Good morning. Yes. Good to see you. Thanks for jumping in at short notice, lads. Much appreciated. And I guess we're going to start with Eddie Howe. No news yet about the announcement, but we'd like to think it's going to be today or tomorrow at the latest. He's got 2 weeks then to get himself sorted. Are you happy with Eddie Howe, Chris?
Yeah, I'm a little concerned that they said he's going to wait till after the match to sign the contract. Maybe they should get him in before he sees Newcastle play in our current state. You know, obviously people will say he was something that was talked about under the last regime as a replacement for Bruce. And we've got him in under the new regime. But I think he's young, he's hungry, he knows the league, he knows what it's like to be in a relegation fight. And I believe that sort of, whoever was on the sort of the short list for the Newcastle manager, they just weren't kind of cut out for being in a relegation battle where we're not assured of staying up, and we need somebody there that's young and hungry and knows the league. And I think that he'd be an excellent appointment.
Yeah, Stu, I mean, it's been a bit of a roller coaster ride, but we got there in the end by the looks of it, although we'll wait until the ink's dotted on the contract. But are you happy with Howe?
Definitely. I've been reliably informed it's going to get announced today, so I would expect it to be before the match. And I think it's a good time for him to come in from his perspective as well, because the expectancy level is really low. The bar's been set really low, so any sign of improvement will be credited to him, and there's plenty to improve on. So as Chris mentioned, he's a young manager, but he is technically astute, and he likes to play football on the front foot, and it's just getting the balance and act right. I mean, I don't think we're going to become prime Barcelona after 2 weeks training with them, but I think with the addition of 3 or 4 good quality players come January, and let's hope by then we have a director of football in place, so Eddie Howe can concentrate on the footballing side of it, the coaching side of it, tells him what sort of player he's looking for, and the director of football goes and gets it. And I think from there we'll have a strong finish to the season, as we have done the last 2 or 3 years. Even back to Rafa's last season, we finished the season really well. And then it's just about building for the following season. I think the key, or the most important season for Eddie Howe will be the last year of his contract. It's about stabilising, consolidating, and then moving on. And if you can show progression, then why not extend his contract? That's the way I see it.
Yeah, Chris, the Unai Emery thing, I think anyone who watched maybe the Gibbo and Malcolm show in particular, and a little bit of the Three Amigos last night, I would say I'm quite agitated with the way the press have covered this. And I mean, look, I understand why they do these things, Chris. You know, they want to get people to read the newspaper or online or listen to the radio shows or watch Sky. But, you know, I think that, you know, the Unai Emery thing seriously was blown out of all proportion. And you know, to the point where for 2 days, they've been running the story that Unai Emery turned us down. You know, I mean, yes, he came out, he made a statement, he said he was flattered, and, you know, but it wasn't as if they'd sat in an office and discussed terms and he'd said no. And that was why I was getting rather agitated. And the week before, you know, Unai Emery wasn't even mentioned. He was like a dark horse, if you like. It was all about the Fonsecas and the Favres of this world. And then the week before that, it was all about Conte and Eddie Howe was mentioned then. So, you know, that's why I was getting agitated. You know, Unai Emery wasn't the favourite from the start till the end of the process. And the fact that he turned us down is no more significant than him not taking the job than any of the other 3 or 4 that were mentioned. So, you know, from my perspective, I was really annoyed at the media rather than annoyed at Unai Emery. But what was your take on all of that?
Well, you also heard that maybe Unai Emery's people were the ones that put him forward. Like maybe he wasn't on the short list for Newcastle at all. And it's sort of, if you look at it from that perspective, it's kind of a way for him to have gotten a new contract out of Villarreal. So it's a little bit like his camp might have played us for sort of more money from Villarreal, which is unfortunate because you would hope that everyone that comes to us would be with the best intentions and not a nefarious scheme. I'm with you. Yeah, I mean of course everyone started with Conte and sort of like he was never going to come to Newcastle in a relegation battle, and he was more suited to be the manager that gets you from 4th to 1st or 2nd to 1st. And so all the other managers I sort of thought were kind of unrealistic at this point. I mean, Jose Mourinho turned us down. Other people turned us down. So I felt like we were looking at somebody like Eddie Howe was sort of the best that, not the best that we could do, but the most realistic, somebody who's out of work, so we don't have to negotiate with his current squad on a release clause, which I think was one of the holdups in some of the other deals, whether it's Roberto Martinez or Graham Potter or anyone else that we would have considered. But yeah, I mean, I feel like he's sort of he's good for the short term and maybe for the long term. And he comes in, if you've seen any of his videos, with these tactics and strategies which were totally under the Bruce regime. You know, we just kind of threw the players out there with no scheme. And I think that he's a real tactician and a real hard worker. I've read that he, you know, is the first in the office 6:30 in the morning and the last one out, and that's quite a difference from sort of the part-time manager that Graeme Jones might have mentioned that Steve Bruce was.
Yeah, very true. Yeah, I mean, same question to you, Stu. The Emery thing really got up my nose. And you know, it was a good-hearted, you know, frank discussion between me and Gibbo, with me on the side of the fans and him on the side of the media. I know you just listened to it this morning. What was your take on that?
I think you can see both points of view, but if I had to fall on one side, it would be on yours, because, I mean, let's not kid ourselves. Emery would have been a very fine appointment, you know, but they didn't just interview everyone. They had a short list of 6 people, and he was on it. Now, Emery's played the game, and he's managed to get himself a pay rise, and you've got to give him credit for that. As rumours go, he had a couple of Zoom calls. His representatives were in Newcastle having discussions, but at no stage was he given an offer. So he's withdrew from the discussions, saying, "Look, it's not for me." That doesn't mean he's turned them down, because he wasn't offered anything, you know. And I just think, well, people like the Favres and Fonsecas, every single person on that shortlist would have been a huge improvement on Steve Bruce. And I think there's too many people wanting to criticise straight away the new regime that we've got. You know, they're new to it, but they're enthusiastic and they want the best for the club. And for those who've supported this team or any team for a long time, That's the bottom line, isn't it? You want your owners to want the best for you. And that's what they're doing. And we've waited a long time to be in this position. And if it's today, which I'm led to believe it is, if it's tomorrow, if it's next week, and we get a new manager, then that has to be seen as a positive. The one thing I will agree with Gibbo on, and I think it's bang on, because I had the same discussion with Steve Hasty during the week, is it seems to be all in now. And anything Newcastle do gets criticised, and it's now because the chairman's living in Saudi, or he wasn't in Newcastle. He had COVID, so he's not able to fly. But he was in it. Even if he's based in Saudi, the people who are criticising us are these who support Manchester United, whose chairman or owner lives in America, or Liverpool, whose owner lives in America, or Chelsea's owner, who's, as Gibbo says, not even allowed in the country. So it makes too much of it. You know, we've all look. I'm in Bahrain, used to in the UK in different places, and we're all sitting and talking to each other. So do you think the people who run the clubs can't do the same thing? You know, it's about opinions, and like we think this. They've all got their own tasks. They're all getting to know each other, and if any mistake is making, it will be with the best intentions. Because last time I checked, we're all human, and as long as they keep wanting them to bring this club forward, then they deserve our full support.
Yeah, 100%, mate. Well said. Okay, as always, we open it up to the chat when Mick's usually on the show. We'll do the same again for you guys, because we never know which direction it's going to go into. We'll finish off, of course, we're looking ahead to Brighton. Yano says, please discuss. In the last 48 Premier League games, Lascelles has played 90 minutes in 25 games. We have won 2. In the other 23 games, we've won 10. Less than 1% with and almost 50% without. Yeah, I know. I love it when you come up with these kind of stats. And Chris, I think this is something we've discussed many times when you've been on the show. What's your take on that?
I think it's a remarkable stat, and it's somehow it's not surprising. This is sort of for all the people that were saying that Matt Ritchie should be our captain. Here we've got hopefully an incoming manager who knows Matt Ritchie well. Doesn't know Lascelles very well, so maybe one of his early sort of first gestures is to change the captain to Matt Ritchie or something like that. Yeah, I mean, it's just he's got to fix the from the back. You know, he's known as an attacking manager, but I think if it is indeed, we have to say conditionally, if it is indeed Eddie Howe, I think in the first window he's got to bring in someone like Tarkowski and other people to really shore up the back row. And I know we've been talking about getting Wolves captain as the center back, and he'd be another excellent loan signing or permanent signing for us to really bring in, build from the back, but it really improve the squad, because we can't just be playing 5 at the back with like three players who shouldn't even be on the field as a subpar Premier League quality. We need to bring in quality defense and build from the back and totally transform our team slowly but surely through all the windows.
Good stuff, Chris. Alwaleed and Holly, we've got you back. Good to see you. How's the journey going, Alwaleed?
Actually, it's amazing, and we still now, maybe in the morning, we were more of the bus passenger sleepy, but I think now we are getting awake.
Very good. Yeah, it's a long journey to the Amex.
I think 2 hours
Alwaleed?
to reach Brighton. And
good. So we're going to be struggling with this.
signals.
Yeah, the signal's not good, Alwaleed, but we got the gist of it. You're enjoying the trip. It's good. The big question is there any singing on the bus, Alwaleed? Singing, of course, is something that he was keen on the bus. I'm wondering whether did you get the question, Alwaleed?
Yeah, but I think I will start singing now, but I don't remember the words.
Don't forget, it's the Callum Wilson song. That's why we played it for you last night. It's very easy. I'm sure Holly can teach you the words because she's very good at singing at the match. Holly,
who can sing Wilson song? Callum Wilson song. Callum Wilson song.
Surely you know who's that team you call United.
Yes. Who can sing it and
a live rendition.
I would sing, but I didn't.
Wait, what song are we trying to sing? The Callum Wilson song?
Yeah, the Callum Wilson song. Can you do it, Holly? Can we do it live on air?
Of course we can.
Go on,
Hey, Callum Wilson. Ooh, ah, I want to know how you score that goal.
2, 3. Well done.
Hey,
Yeah, well,
Callum Wilson.
that's better.
Ah, I want to know
Callum Wilson.
score that goal.
Fantastic.
Class.
Have a great time. Have a great time. Alwaleed, look forward to watching you on Snapchat later on today. Have a great time and, keep us informed about how it goes. Holly, thanks for looking after him today.
No worries. Thanks for having us on, Steve.
Take care. See you later. Bye.
Yeah.
Great to have them on. That's just made me smile because he wanted to go down there. He's had so much love and support from the people of Newcastle, which doesn't surprise us in the slightest. But for him to go down to Brighton and to get an invite not only from the main sponsor but then to be invited by the owners, it's been a hell of a journey for him, and it really, really pleases me. So hope he has a great time. Hope he has a safe trip there and back. And he couldn't have picked anybody better with than Holly to go down with. It's great to see. Okay, Stu, we'll come to you now with that stats about Lascelles. Are you a Lascelles fan?
Yes and no, but I was just thinking that bus trip looked a lot more cordial than the ones I used to go on back in 25, 30
I decided to put him on the back page travel because it's where you don't have a drink on the bus. Because believe you me, he has been like the Saudi version of Stu Penman and Neil Mitchell rolled into one on this trip. He has sank more brown ales, lager, and anything else I've seen in a long, long time amongst people. And if he's not back on a drip on alcohol when he gets back to Saudi, I would be surprised. But he's had a great time. He's on holiday. He is on holiday after.
He'll need a holiday after this holiday, I think. He's been non-stop, hasn't he?
Yeah.
But regarding Lascelles, we've got they keep saying we've got 6 centre halves, but to me the best centre half as a defender we've got is Kieran Clark as a defender. Lascelles needs someone next to him to hold his hand. He needs to be one of a 3, and I think he's distracted with the captaincy. But that doesn't mean I think with encouragement. If he's getting encouraged. But as a leader, he should be giving the encouragement, not waiting to receive it. But if you've got someone like Shaw, or Shaw, however it's pronounced, I'll call him Shaw. If you've got someone like Fabian Shaw to play next to it, he can, when he moves forward, I've got Isaac Hayden that can sit back and quite happily cover for him. So they can play in tandems. But for a no-nonsense defender, just get your head up, get the ball out. We've got Clark for that, who's not the long-term answer, but he will be a valuable squad member even over the next 2 or 3 years. Again, just opinions. But we can look at stats for most of the players over the last season and a half, and they wouldn't read well. You can make them look whichever way you want, and so Lascelles has won 2 out of 25. But how many times has Darla won in that time? And how many times did Woodman win? He didn't at all. And how many times? You can just about pick every single defensive player there, and not one of them will come away with the glowing report of yes, the team's far better when I'm in it. There's only 2 players in the team that can say that, and they're up top. It's just getting them to gel and getting the support to them, because if not, they're on an island, aren't they? They're just being isolated constantly, and it seems to be hopefully the tactics change, but we're not just give the ball to ASM. Hope he beats 3 or 4 men. Because I'm sick of screaming at the screen. Someone support him. At least cause a diversion so you can do his trickery and things like that. And this is why we're crying out for a manager, not just a coach. We've got a very good coach. You don't become coach of Belgium or be asked to join England for the Euros if you're not good at your job. But a manager is a different role. And I know Chris mentioned Cody as well. I think he could come in and become the leader that Lascelles once was. You know, a strong lad, quick lad, vociferous lad, not scared to say what he means. And he will lead by example. You know, so a few little chinks in here and there. We're not that far away from being a half decent team, and I think there's an outcry going on at the moment. We've been there before, and it's a time for old wise heads just to like stay calm and watch us climb the league, sticking it together. And do you know what? If we get relegated, people are going to stop supporting them. You know, we've been relegated a few times in the times that we've been watching them. So if we get relegated, we get relegated. Give the lads the support, and if they give us their best, they'll get reciprocated many times.
Yeah,
so I'm not all for. Sorry, Steve, I just got to finish. I'm not all for one of these stats like pulling players apart and saying, no, it's not good because of Lascelles. Lascelles in these days a very good defender. He's just not having as many days as he used to have.
Fair point, mate. Fair point.
And that's it. Like, but if he wasn't criticised, it's hard. And the best example we've got is when we had Ruud Gullit with Alan Shearer. You know, telling them he was better than him and he was a European footballer, he'll never be a good player. And if you tell someone something enough times, you start believing it. You start doubting yourself. Even the strong-minded people like Alan Shearer, they start like doubting yourself. So it needs someone like Bobby Robson come put your arm around him, saying, "Hey lad, I'm going to build this team around you. You're the best forward in Europe, if not the world." You know, and if that chat didn't happen, he wouldn't have broke our goal scoring record because he would have been off. So I think we need to stop criticising the players. We all moan when they make mistakes, and I've been a very big critic of Joe Linton, but mostly because he doesn't put the effort in. And there's a few players like that where when you can see them cheating and the salary they're getting paid, they're in a very fortunate position, privileged position, and some take it for granted. The ones who don't are the ones that'll get the backing, but they're not something performed as well either. So.
Good points, well made, Stu. 100%. Here's an interesting one from R. Jordan. He goes, "Too many cooks are going to spoil the broth here. Jones and Howe." You know, that's something that's come up, Chris, as well. The last two press conferences Graeme Jones has held at St James's Park has been to say that his position is almost secured. You know, he's spoken to the owners, and you know that's caused a little bit of head scratching amongst the fan base because. You know, usually a new man comes in, he clears out. Do you think that's wise keeping a hold of Jones? Do you think it's wise Jones coming out and saying that, or do you think Jones has just been caught out a little bit and is saying things which potentially couldn't happen?
I've got mixed feelings about this. I think it could be useful to help the transition into Eddie Howe again, if it is Eddie Howe. But at the same time, I think it's something that needs to be reevaluated, if not sooner than the end of the year, end of the season. Because one thing I wouldn't want to do would be I want every player to get a fresh look, and I wouldn't want whatever Graeme Jones has against some of the players who aren't playing. I wouldn't want him to sort of be whispering in Eddie Howe's ear and saying, you know, these guys aren't fit, these guys aren't up to the task. I'd want a fresh look, fresh pair of eyes to be given to those players who don't even make the squad, let alone the bench every week. Players like Jamal Lewis or Dummett when he's fit. And then, sticking with guys like Clark, who's maybe not in his best days anymore. Just giving people a fresh chance and not playing the same. Because it seems like we sort of believe that maybe Graeme Jones had a lot more influence in the squad than we were led to believe, because he's playing basically the same squad that Steve Bruce did. It wasn't maybe just, we always heard, he did the practices and he did the tactics, and then Steve Bruce chose the squad. But it seems like that Steve Bruce chose the squad with a lot of influence from Graeme Jones, and that continues on. The fact that he said, okay, you could agree or disagree with him, where he said that I played the squad versus Chelsea because that's what the Chelsea demanded, but then to play the same squad again last week without any changes, you have to wonder what's going on. And of course, we don't see training, so we don't know if any of the players that he's not favoring just don't train well. He doesn't trust them because, you know, it's first of all, it's about trust. If the manager doesn't trust you, he's not going to play you. So maybe there's an issue with trust, maybe there's an issue with fitness or training. But first of all, if Dubravka is good enough to be on the bench last week, he should be straight into the squad. And that's going to be the first thing we're all going to be looking for when they release the squad for today. If Darlow is still starting, I really have an issue with Graeme Jones not seeing the big picture. And I hope that this is Graeme Jones' last game in charge. He really goes for it and doesn't sort of sit back and wait for the wait for Brighton and Lamptey and those other guys to come at us, but really take it to Brighton, really force the issue, because we don't have a great record against Brighton. You know, we had that fluke sort of Modiame goal to get our last win, and I was down there at the Amex to see that. So it's just a question of how much is he going to change from Steve Bruce, because we haven't seen a whole lot of change. It's been pretty much more of the same from Graeme Jones.
Yes, Stu. I mean, this situation, will be resolved one way or another. Would imagine in the next couple of days, once we know what is happening with the managerial situation. Howe signs over the weekend. He's going to bring his own team in, isn't he? It's just a question of whether Graeme Jones is going to be part of that or not.
I think he should be. He's a trusted aide. They've worked well together. And just to give the flip side to what Chris was saying about, I hope he's not going to go running. It's like telling the teacher he's done this and he's done that. But we're not in a position where we can sit and give everyone clean slates and, clean slate from the start of the first training session. But there's bad apples in there, and without naming names, we know who the bad apples are. At least 2 or 3 of them, and these need to be rooted out and dispatched straight away. And even if it is like a Ruud Gullit style, go and train with the kids like you did to Robert Lee, but not to that extreme, because Robert Lee was a professional. I'm talking about the ones who are disruptive. Who the attitude's the most important thing, as I touched on in the last time I spoke. And if people aren't sure that they'll drag others down, and it's human nature. If they're getting away with it, why shouldn't I? And if we look at the last the 2 press conferences that Graeme Jones has done, the first one he alluded to, the next and one yesterday was more direct about the lack of training there had been, about it being part-time, and it's quite clear where he believes we can improve instantly. And he's saying that in a press conference. We're watching the games. We know they don't look fit. And even in pre-season, there was a few players, Murphy was one of them, that went in early because they were starting later than they needed to. They were given the Euros. We didn't have that many players at the Euros. There were just excuses or for someone to be in Portugal and extend his own holiday. So it's been run without care and consideration. And I think when Eddie Howe comes in, he needs as much support as he possibly can straight away to hit the ground running. And if he gets word in his ears, he's clever enough to make his own mind up, but he'll take any information he can on board and say, right, okay, his card's marked, let him prove to me that information I've got's incorrect. We as a team, we as supporters can only benefit from that, and they do work well together. So let it happen as soon as possible. It's a long journey back. I know they fly back, but it's a long journey back. Give them tomorrow off and have them in on Monday morning straight away. And let's set out what our intentions are and involve the players, involve them in like for this month, set them targets. This is how many points we're expecting. This and build it together. Create the team spirit that's clearly missing. There's too many separate camps there. There's people sitting there. There's a Shelby camp. There's a Lascelles camp. What we need is one. And when we have one, we'll come stronger anyway. It's common sense, but sometimes common sense isn't common anymore. And Eddie Howe talks a lot of it. He talks a lot of common sense. So I'm sure a lot of people have seen the videos of the last few days. I mean, of how he does his tactics. And again, he wasn't reinventing the wheel there, but the fact that he enforces it, the fact that he understands it, and the fact that he explains it in simple layman terms makes it easier. And the easier it is for the players to understand their roles, the easier it will be, because they'll be singing. Him and Jones should be singing off the same hymn sheet. You know, and you don't have the scenario where you've got Bruce waving his arms around like he's running for a bus and just like trying to stop this bus flapping about and like a demented penguin. And then you've got the players actually blatantly listening to what Graeme Jones has got to say. You know, there'll be one voice. And if there is two voices, they'll both be saying the same thing. And that way there'll be no convolution in any discussion. People will know exactly what their role is. And if they're not up to it, they'll be shipped out. But I hope we make the changes early January instead of traditional Newcastle wait till the last minute and start scraping around looking for anyone and anything. So the next 2 weeks of training, Eddie Howe should be able to look and think, this guy's, even with the right attitude, he's not going to help us improve. He's not going to take us where we want to go. So that position needs to be earmarked for improvement. Right, let's start scouting for someone in that position. They've got the funds, they've got the backing. And it's an enviable job to be in. And I really hope he does exceptionally well, because, like I say, he can't do worse than what went before him from where we are. The only way is up, all bar and Norwich. So good luck to him.
Well said, Stu. Yeah, great to have you on in this capacity. As I say, very rare we've had the opportunity to do these shows either. We always have a packed week, but nice to be able to do it.
Nearly as rare as this, Steve, drinking water on a
that's very rare for regular viewers to the Retro Show. Big shout out to Spider VPN, one of our main sponsors, Google Spider VPN. They come up at the top of your search list, and they protect your computer, passwords, photographs, everything. Get in touch with the boys today. Big thanks to skipsandbins.com. Telephone 0800 25 45 25 3. Email inquiries at skipsandbins.com. Website www.skipsandbins.com. Easy, contract free, and pay as you go waste collection. Also, thanks to L&G Family Funeral Directors, 0191 389 7245, and to John at qtechshop.co.uk, the makers of pool tables and snooker tables in Walls and Newcastle, and the man who runs our website, NUFCmatters.com. Thanks to John at Jab Signature, jabsignature.co.uk, for making our flyers. If you want to subscribe to the channel, click Newcastle Legends logo in the bottom right-hand corner, and that's it. You can subscribe for free. Hit the thumb up to like the video, click share to share to your social media, drop into the comments box to pose a question or to speak to like-minded Newcastle fans. And we're also available as a podcast on iTunes, Spotify, and the rest. Some events coming up. The NUFC Matters Christmas party is almost upon us. November the 19th, 7 o'clock at the Irish Centre. Tickets £12 and available from newcastlelegends.com. Just click shop. Tickets are also available for the evening with Peter Beardsley a week later, again at the Tyneside Irish Centre. Tickets for that are £15. newcastlelegends.com, the place to go for your tickets. Just click shop. Also, a food bank event with Supermac at Bobix in Jesmond. Simply go to bobix.com. You can buy your tickets there. All proceeds going to the food bank. If you want to make a donation to the food bank today whilst the match is on, then visit the website, nufcfanfoodbank.co.uk, and drop some money into the virtual match day bucket. You can also buy tickets for the Peter Beardsley signed trainers, custom made to your size, signed by Peter. The raffle tickets for that are £1, and you can buy them from nufcfansfoodbank.co.uk. Also, an evening with Peter Beardsley as a Christmas idea, Sunday the 30th of January. Tickets available for that on Voucher and Groupon at a vastly reduced rate. Make a nice present for a Newcastle fan that you know who might want to go. As well, this, a copy of my book, Every Boy's Dream, available on Amazon or available in the Backpage shop in Newcastle or in the Metro Centre. And just a shout out from your old pal Joe Allen, who was doing a show at the Lakeside Inn, East Felgate Farm. Telephone number 0191 428 3030. Joe's doing an evening about Jack Charlton, the Northumberland giant who hailed to success in the World Cup in 1966 and also playing for the mighty Leeds, who managed the Republic of Ireland and Newcastle It's a unique evening where Jack is portrayed by former Newcastle, Chelsea and Hartlepool player Joe Allen. Well worth a watch. I've seen a lot of it in preparation, and I think Joe will do really well with that. So go and give him some support. Tickets are £10, and that is November the 12th. Tickets are £10, includes food as well. So should be a good night. And don't forget Junior Turner, who I had on the show last night. Banks of the River Tyne. His single is out. It's available at the back page. Great single. If you didn't see it last night, watch it on Catch Up. And that is available, and some proceeds of that are going to the food bank as well. And also the T-shirt, the Alwaleed T-shirt, which is up for grabs on the food bank. Get onto my Twitter at Steve Wraith. Still time to bid for that. We will announce the winner on Tuesday's show with Liam. So get yourself on there. I think it was at £50, and Lee had bid for that. So thank you, Lee, for your support. Hopefully we will get a few more quid in the bank for that. Blue Moon Boy, he says someone close to within the club must be leaking stories to the media. Who could this be, or is it agents? That's getting back, Chris, to the story we had before. But, Emery, Emery's people obviously would stand to benefit by getting a slightly improved contract. Gibbo was saying that the media were briefed, and I do have no reason to disbelieve Gibbo at all. But it sounds really like that a lot of people need a little bit of educating, I guess, within the fan base, and have to understand that this is what happens. Sometimes the club might put out a red herring. We've seen it with Steve Bruce earlier this season, where we're told a player wasn't fit to play, and then next thing you know, he's in the starting 11 at the weekend. Some of it can be a bit of kidology, Chris. Some of it can be a bit of trust issues. You might give a little bit of information to somebody in the hope that it gets out, and that person isn't trustworthy. It's a big game, Chris, in a lot of ways, isn't it?
Yeah, I was going to say, Steve, during the whole takeover saga, you often use the phrase head above the parapet. Now the club itself, being purportedly the richest club in the world, this new Saudi takeover, we have our head massively above the parapet, and everyone's going to be taking shots at us, and so we have to sort of really tread carefully. And I think that the new ownership has a lot of scrutiny on themselves, and so any missteps are going to be hugely magnified. So I think that everyone needs to manage their relations with the press very, very carefully. I mean, the press mantra is to get it first, but get it right. And so everyone wants to get it first, not necessarily have all of the facts nailed down. And this is when we get into this sort of idea that, it's a done deal, it's imminent. All those phrases we saw during the takeovers 18-month saga, we're seeing like in miniature with this managerial hiring process. So I just would urge caution. I think in the age of Twitter, it's easy to be the first person to be in the know or whatever to break the news. But it really kind of need to take a step back and say, what is best for the club? It's best for the club that we have a situation like ultimately the takeover went through, with very little people knowing that was going to happen in advance. And so I think we benefit most from something like that, where these big hires happen without a lot of media scrutiny or media hyping or media sort of exclusively breaking the stories. But we can't tell people not to print something, but we can be careful who we're briefing and when we're briefing at what stage of the process, so that things that come out in the press don't scuttle a deal like it may have happened in the case with this Emery situation.
Yeah, the media. I mean, we get info as well, Stu, don't we, all the time? We've got people who maybe drop us a text or drop us a message on social media, and you have to separate the wheat from the chaff sometimes. It's no offense to some people, but you go, thanks for the info, but you don't act on it. But I mean, I've been in that position many times. I know different journalists, different broadcasters, different ex-players. If I started putting out everything I got from various people, it would just cloud the waters even more. But this is what happens in football, isn't it, Stu?
Yeah, of course. But I think, as I mentioned earlier, about it's a learning curve and the new owners will make mistakes, and some things will be said with the best of intentions. You know, they're trying to curry favour. If you look at all the mistakes the previous regime made with the lack of communication, it might be, look, I'll do you a favour and I'll tell you this, or it might have just been a guess. You know, a question might have been asked: has that person been discussed? Yes, he has. Just a dismissive answer like that, and then all of a sudden, you know, he's number one for the job, and it's his job to turn down, etc., etc. You know, without getting the full story. And this is one of my favourite sayings: don't spoil a good story with the truth. You know, and it happens a lot. You know, but there is a lot of people who will tell you that this that Favre was definitely Favre's, and it was definitely Fonseca's, and by all understandings, he was strong in the run, was Emery, but that doesn't mean he was offered the job. You know, it was maybe his turn to be interviewed, and it looked positive, and they were expecting it because he is a big name manager. And I don't want to be critical of Emery because I would have been as happy as the next person if he was announced. But I'm happy that Eddie Howe's will be announced. You know, because I'm fear of repeating myself. Anyone that we get, anyone on that shortlist is a huge, huge, huge improvement of what we've had. You know, so I think what we've got to do as a fan base is try and stop over-exaggerating things or blowing things out of proportion and looking for reasons to criticise. You know, the new owners have inherited not just a club, they've inherited an empty shell. There's so much that needs to be changed from everything, you know, and you can't just come in and do it within a week or two. Of course, our priority and their priority should be the playing field and what can be done. But just put a manager in. They can't sign any players till January anyway. So just throwing a manager in just to appease a certain section of the fans, or wait a couple of weeks and get the right manager who will then, when the money is available, makes the right signings and the club starts to grow. You know, let them do what they're good at, and the very best people. And as you know, I deal with Saudi Arabian clients on a daily basis. Thursday night, I was out for a meal with my wife and my client's wife. The four of us were out for a meal here in Bahrain. He travelled over to visit, and we had a really great evening. And it's understanding how the mindset is different to what it is in the UK. But the Saudis want the best, and what they're very good at is if they can't do it, they'll employ the best person to do it, and that's what makes people successful. You know, all these people who have multi-millionaires, billionaires, etc., etc., and apart from the ones who have inherited, they've done it by being smart and savvy and streetwise and shrewd, by saying, right, I'm good at this, but I'm not so good at that. I'll get the best person I can to do that. And they'll be doing that on and off the field as well. You know, so everyone will be under review. And for the players, for those who have been in a comfort zone, and again, repeating what Chris has said, it might perk a few of them up. They might think, right, now I've got to roll my sleeves up, but that shouldn't be seen as a positive for us. That someone who has been a bit lackluster or not putting as much in now decides, hang on, I'm getting 70 grand a week or 60 grand a week, 50 grand a week. This is in danger of being taken away from me now. My reputation, my long-term or my longevity in the game is now under threat. And we've all been there, unless you have your own business, we've all been there where a new boss comes in and you've got to prove yourself all over again. And the ones who are up for the challenge are the ones who will succeed, and the ones who want to complain about it are the ones who will fail. And that's the same in every walk of life, not just on the football pitch. So let us be happy that we've got new owners. You know, if we said 2 months ago we're going to have the owners that we wanted, we're going to have a huge amount of wealth at our disposal. And we're now arguing about one of the best, brightest young managers in the English game, or a tried and tested coach from overseas who failed when he was last in the English game. That's not a bad position to be in. You know, I think we just need to calm down a bit and be thankful that we can now actually grow.
Great stuff again. Michael, Thomas, good morning, mate. Michael says Stu Penman talking more sense than most TV pundits, which is very refreshing. He says, who does Stu think would be a good choice for director of football?
Arsene Wenger. I think he's got the contacts. He's I think he's hinted a few times that he has a soft spot for Newcastle and he'd be available. I think he's also an admirer of Eddie Howe. So I would like to have Arsene Wenger there. I was laughing at the comment earlier from Yano when he said Mr. Penman. It reminded us when I was going to pick my daughter up from school and the teacher said, "Hello, Mr. Penman." And my daughter started laughing. I says, "What are you laughing at?" And she says, "Your name's Dad." And I says, "Yes, I know, but the teacher would call me Mr. Penman." She went, "No, Grandad's Mr. Penman, your dad." You know, she was only about 5 or 6 at the time, so it just made me smile there. But Arsene Wenger was the answer to that question that Michael asked. That's who I would like to have. Or Mark Overmars.
Yeah, good stuff. Mad Mark says, I'd like Newcastle to consider getting Mohamed Elneny from Arsenal in January. He's a good ball-playing midfielder who can move the ball through the lines well and will complement Willock's game. Andrew as well asked us a little bit earlier. We did have it on screen. Chris, about the Barca keeper potentially coming.
Yeah.
You know, is that a position we really need to be strengthening in January? We've got Dubravka, we've got Darlow, we've got Woodman. I mean, we seem fairly stacked in that department.
Yeah, no, I think we're fine with Dubravka, and I want to sort of answer that question with not to bring up a comment from a previous show, but I remember someone commenting, would you trust Eddie Howe with £1 billion? And he was there saying that, like, calculating that we'd have £250 million each window, and I think that's unrealistic. I think we need to appreciate that we do have the richest owners in the world, but I don't think that we're going to be world beaters signing Galacticos every transfer window. And I think we're going to build more methodically and more deliberately than most people think or want or expect. And I don't think we're going to be spending £250 million, you know, or £200 million every window. We may push that in some windows, but I don't think it's going to be. We've got £1 billion to spend in the next 4 windows. I think that's unrealistic. So to answer the question, no, I don't think that we want to be spending a lot of money on a goalkeeper. And I'm going to say that a lot of we're going to be linked to so many players because agents will see a move to Newcastle as a way to cash in for themselves and their player, because they'll be able to either move us to Newcastle and demand higher fees, higher wages, or they'll be able to use interest from Newcastle and say, look, you know, I've got interest from Newcastle. You know, you have to pay top dollar. So it's a way for agents to make more money for their players by linking us to them. So we're going to be linked to everyone under the sun between now and, you know, next 4 years or so, I'd say.
Yeah, okay, mate. That's good stuff. NUFC Matter, straight out of Compton. Great album, Keith. I'm not sure what you mean about that, but yeah, really good album. One of my favourites. I prefer Easy E on his own mind. Director of football, Luis Campos. I mean, we've had so many suggestions about that particular role. I think ultimately, I think the fact that they've got Frank McParlin there, I think he would do well in that role as well, to be honest. I've met Frank on many occasions where, you know, Rafa was at the club, and he's very well connected in football, you know, and he's done very well at Liverpool. He did very well at Rangers, did well at Brentford, and he's got the experience and the connections. And it's not always about having a big name in that role for me. I always feel that it's about somebody who's well connected and who's well respected, can do the job just as well, doesn't have to have a name. You know, it's interesting. A lot of concern in the chat about why it's taken so long as well, Stu, about this appointment of Eddie Howe, you know, but it's not really taken as long. I mean, he's just had the confirmation. Presuming he had a chat early doors. They've got him back in to have another chat on Zoom. It's just a case of, you know, catching up with him now face to face to sign the deal. But in principle, the deal's been agreed. I would imagine it's going to be signed and sealed, and he's going to have the 2 weeks international break to get his feet under the table. But I don't think people need to panic. I think now that we've gone, I think they'll have learned a lesson from Emery if there was a media briefing about that, and they will know that they've got their man.
Yeah, I think he's done. If you want to quote Pardew, I would say he's over the line. But Mitch mentioned it last night. He'd been up before the takeover and been interviewed.
Charlie.
Yeah, and he's also been up again and been interviewed by the new owners. So that's twice, and he's speaking to them right now. So there's three times he's been. So I think it makes sense. Don't panic. Make the right decision. The worst thing you can do is it's like what we have done in the past, or other clubs have done it as well, is panic buy. So we don't want to make a panic appointment either. And hello from Bahrain. Oh, hello Kamal. How are you? So. If this is how they believe, they've looked at all the pros and cons. He knows the English game, and this is why I mentioned Wenger and Mark Overmars before, because I think we need a European influence, not because of the big names, just the names I know, but we need a director of football that has the finger on the pulse overseas, because it's quite clear that there's factions within the Premier League that don't want Newcastle to succeed. And as Chris mentioned there, the price will double, etc. But I think there's more chance of me and you, Steve, growing a perm by Christmas than us paying £46 million for the Barcelona keeper. You know, we've got a very good keeper. We've got a good backup. So that's just mischievous on the behalf of the agents, and the Barcelona are as much debt as what Tottenham are. You know, they need money in, and Newcastle have got money, and we're going to have to get used to this as a fan base as well. We're going to get linked with everybody and anybody. You know, and again, we'll keep using the words trust, but we're going to have to trust the people who are appointed to do their jobs. And if they're not doing it to the best of their ability, if they're not doing it to the satisfaction of the owners, guess what? They'll be replaced by someone who the owners think will take us forward. And again, we've now got owners who want us to improve, who want us to succeed. And we should be enjoying it, not trying to find faults in it. And we're not going to win every game. There will be bumps along the road, but the bumps will be smoothed out. And I'm just excited we've got owners who will make mistakes, they'll learn from the mistakes, and will improve. And we can improve quickly. And we're not in a desperate position as people would like us to believe we are.
Yeah. Newcastle United take on Brighton at the Amex today. 5:30 kickoff live on BT Sports. 3,100 away ticket allocation taken as usual, including our very own Alwaleed, who is down there at his first away game and on his way, and looking forward to cheering on Newcastle to a goal and hopefully a victory, he said earlier. Graeme Jones obviously taking charge of Newcastle today, hopefully, I think for the last time, with Eddie Howe set to take the manager's hot seat and signing a 2.5-year deal. Only injury to Newcastle's squad today is Paul Dummett, still not available. We were expecting to see Martin Dubravka make his return to first team action today. Matt Ritchie, as well, as I've mentioned earlier this week, is on 4 yellow cards. So he is one away from another booking, which would lead to a 1-game suspension. Brighton have a few issues. Danny Welbeck and Stephen Alzate remain out, and Dan Burn is doubtful. Graham Potter's Brighton are winless in their last 5 Premier League outings, drawing all but one of those. So they're not exactly on top form. Referee today is David Coote. That's his second game in charge of a Newcastle game this season. He refereed the 2-0 loss at Villa. Craig Pawson is on VAR. Okay, Chris, give us your views on today's game and a prediction.
So it's always tough against Brighton. I believe we haven't beaten Brighton in the Premier League. I believe the last time we beat Brighton was down in the Championship. I think I was at that game. So, yeah, you know, Graham Potter is a top. I mean, is a pretty good manager. He's got Brighton playing very well. I'm going to say we're going to nick a 2-1 win.
2-1 win. Okay, you're the first person in this week to actually predict a win. Stu, are you going to make it a double? And I don't mean Jaeger.
No, that'll be more than a double, that's for sure. Anyway, normally I predict a win, and I want us to win, but you've got your head in your hearts, and which one do you go with? If they go with a team that I believe, if Eddie Howe has any influence of it, I think we could go 4-3-3. I don't need to. Chris has been sat in the naughty step, hasn't he? Of course, I've had my customary 3-1 bet for Newcastle. and don't expect it to come in, but it will one day, very soon, hopefully. You know, even if we do get beat, if the formation changes and the focus is better, and they give us something that we can grow on, fine. But I really do want us to win, obviously, and I'd like us to win because Alwaleed's down there, and he comes back with maybe he's a 1-0 win. The team I would pick would be Dubravka 4-3-3, Manquillo and Lewis at fullbacks, a midfield three of Willock, Hayden and Ritchie, and then Miggy, Wilson and ASM up front, because they're going to attack with pace, and we need pace at the back with Lewis and Manquillo, and we can attack with pace. And if we are under the cosh too much, Miggy can sit back and help and revert to a 4-4-2. It's not that difficult, is it? 4-4-2 when defending and 4-3-3 when attacking. But apparently it is difficult. It shouldn't be though. Let's hope we're going to win, and Alwaleed comes away with a Wilson goal, so you can sing the song on the bus all the way home.
Yeah, we played the song to him last night. We have just had an incoming video message from him, so we'll give Alwaleed the final word.
Now we are about 2 hours to reach Brighton game, to the MX, and it's called MX,
Yes,
right? Yes, and as we see, we are very excited. Oh, hey, the lads!
We're the lads.
What do you expect, Holly?
Unfortunately, I'm going to have to go 2-1 to Brighton, to be honest, but I'd love to see us get a 1-1.
So I believe the spirit of the new manager Eddie Howe will give the players all the power needs to get us the 3 points.
Fantastic. It's great, isn't it? It's great to see him on his way down. Chris here, Stu, honestly, thanks lads for coming on.
My pleasure.
Hope he's okay, and thanks for stepping on, and hopefully get you on again soon, lads. Take care, have a good weekend.
Cheers, everyone.
Thanks, cheers.
Cheers.
Critics attack. It feels like I've been talking to myself.